found out that I suffer from mental illness, and that's originally why I started using the most, is because it made me feel more comfortable around other people. After that, the addiction sets in, and then it's not a choice after that.
I'm Christopher Hines, 40 years old, been in Indianapolis my whole life. You know, I overdosed, I want to say 4 times. I think it was 5 in a 3-month period. And I'd gotten on the phone and called several places, man. And the epidemic is so bad, man, no place has spots. It was just the resources wasn't there.
You could do heroin right before you go to bed and wake up at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning really sick. And I woke up really sick, immediately started calling people to try to, find something that was a couple miles away. And I told them I was willing to walk if he was. And then was on our way back. But by the time I made it here, I decided that I couldn't go any longer. I was that sick, I needed to stop and use someplace. So I went to a restaurant here and snorted the heroin. I started realizing that I was getting too high, like that feeling that you know that you've done too much. And I started getting dizzy, and I made it right past that, I want to say right past them wood fences, and made it into the people's yard there, and I don't remember anything after that. The last thing I really remember seeing and being able to focus on and see, good was the dead end sign. I remember vaguely waking up in the ambulance, and then I remember passing back out. They kept saying my name, Christopher, Christopher, can you wake up for us, and rubbing my sternum really hard. And I made it to the emergency room, and I woke up there after they administered more Narcan. And I remember a doctor coming in and talking to me. She was part of something called Project Point.
I'm Krista Brucker. I'm one of the emergency medicine physicians here at Eskenazi and the medical director for Project Point. When we see a patient after they've received naloxone, they're usually observed in the emergency department on a monitor to measure their oxygen levels and their sort of level of awareness. But once they're sort of stabilized and awake and talking and walking around the emergency department, really not a lot was happening. Getting, at best, sort of a pamphlet or a handout about where they could maybe try and get help, and then being sort of sent on their way. What happens now? Because if we don't do anything from here on out, we're just going to be back doing the same thing tomorrow and the next day. We sort of started with the premise that this might be what we call an intervenable or a teachable moment. So people who have substance misuse disorders often, although not always, have sort of chaotic lives and get into cycles of using and then being in withdrawal and feeling really bad and using again. And they never really sort of have a moment to sort of catch their breath and think about some sort of more long-term issues. So sometimes having a near-fatal overdose that requires Narcan and a trip to the emergency department is a moment where they have to sort of step back and see really where they are. And we found that people are almost universally really interested in hearing about what the treatment options are and engaging with our staff and at least thinking about what the next step towards finding recovery might be. We can do better for these patients, and we should. And I know there's help out there, and this is such a unique position in the emergency department to serve as a bridge.
The difference between my life then and now is then it was complete chaos constantly. Now I wake up and I get my son ready for school, and I take him to the bus stop and get him on the bus, and we hang out and play, Xbox together, and me and my wife sit on the couch and watch movies together. And, I'm aggressively looking for employment. I'm doing things that you would have not caught me doing in the past 15 years, So my life has changed tremendously.
To see more videos from this series on the front lines of a drug crisis, follow us on Facebook. Side Effects Public Media is a reporting collaborative led by WFYI in Indianapolis. Our partnership includes KBIA in Columbia, Missouri, St. Louis Public Radio, Illinois Public Media, WOSU in Columbus, Ohio, and WNIN in Evansville, Indiana.